Just practice today for the Buffalo Sabres. They'll be returning to home ice tomorrow night when they take on Las Vegas. And we did get a bit of an injury update today from head coach Lindy Ruff. Forward Yuri Kulik is getting tests tomorrow to see if he can rejoin the team or will just be increasing his workouts as he looks to come back from blood clots. And the Sabres injury report, it is brought to you by Hamburg Overhead Door. Is your garage door injured? Call the experts at Hamburg Overhead Door to get your door healthy again. Do stay tuned. We'll get more on the Sabres. Paul Hamilton joins the show at 3:30. To the NFL, a very busy day, especially for the Houston Texans. Houston started the day by sending right tackle Titus Howard to Cleveland for a fifth-rounder. Howard then signed a 3-year, $63 million extension with the Browns. And then following that, Houston then acquired running back David Montgomery from Detroit for a fourth, a seventh, and center Juice Scruggs. The Bengals, they are locking in guard Dalton Reisner to a one-year deal worth up to $5 million. Then we also had some roster cuts as well. The Chiefs releasing tackle Juwan Taylor, and the Commanders moving off of cornerback Marshawn Lattimore. That's Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet with you for the extra mile since 1935. I'm Zach Jones on Western New York's Voice of the Fan, WGR.
Mike Schopp.
Hey, put a little. I never get this line out the first time. It's not even good. Hey, put a little bit more in there, cowboy.
And the Bulldog.
What's your degree in?
Kicking ass and taking names.
On WGR Sports Radio 550.
Yeah. I don't know. Sort of felt just fun. Trying to get in the mood, I don't know. How's everybody doing on a sunny Monday? We're closing in on the end of the cold, I think, right? Are we close? Is 70? Did I see 70?
We're getting very, very close.
I saw, dude, I have a feeling as the day wore on Saturday that there were more of these people. But Saturday, as I had hoped I would be able to do, Mike and I talked about this briefly midweek or late in the week. I don't know. I hope it's nice enough to be able to take Fred to the park, and I'd like to walk the golf course when there's no one there golfing, and there are just people out there walking dogs and letting their dogs run around unleashed. Fred has become a pretty responsible little doggo, and I allow him to enjoy that. And I went, and sure enough, as I'm walking, I walk in the same way, and hole 5 is the first hole I encounter, and there's a guy. There was still snow standing on a lot of the course, but this dude was out there with pink golf balls, or maybe green, I don't know, with some alternate color, and just letting it go. Just hat tip to you. He noticed me, I acknowledged him and said, I'm not sure, he was teed up somewhere between where the men's tee is for hole 5 and where the women's is. And I said, I don't think that's a regulation tee box. And I don't know what he said back, but if that had been me, I would have said, I don't think this is a regulation round. It's February 28th or whatever it was on Saturday. Anyway, we're almost there. Good to have you here on a Monday. Mike has the day off today. He hopefully will be back tomorrow. I am planning on a lot of hockey today, from right at the hop here at the start. And through the day. We will have a check-in with Sal Kapacio, just to sort of, get the lay of the land here. We're a week out from the legal tampering period in the NFL, so we will cover our bases there as well. But with the run that the hockey team, that's the Buffalo Sabres, by the way. We're not Olympics are over. No, we're not talking about Team USA or Team Canada or even Team Finland anymore. The run the Sabres have been on has got, I think, maybe some of you were slow to catch on. The 10-game win streak was maybe too reminiscent of a 10-game win streak from a few years earlier, like 17, 18, somewhere in there. They had a 10-game win streak earlier in the year than this one came, but it doesn't matter. I've seen this before, maybe you could say, when they won 10 in a row. But all they've done since then, including that time and up to and including this resumption with the 3-game road trip that they swept in New Jersey, Florida, and Tampa Bay in that order, clobbering Tampa Bay on Saturday night. Maybe now you're more aware. 24-5-2 is the record in the last 31 games, 24-7. I mean, you know, that's how Mike often does. Anyway, 24-5-2 is the record. That is not a hot streak. There's a hot streak in there. It started with a hot streak where they won 10 in a row. But 24-5-2 isn't a hot streak. It is not a fluke. What they are, I'm here to declare, is good. They are a good hockey team. They play good hockey. They play smart hockey. They defend really well. I can't even believe all of this is happening with a team that really made no significant roster changes to jumpstart this turnaround. This team was in last place before the holidays. Last place in the Eastern Conference. I don't know if they were ever last in the entire league. There's a couple teams in the West that are having really, really bad years. But nonetheless, it's been a dramatic turnaround, and Saturday was a work of art. I mean, Saturday was so good. Tampa is absolutely one of the very best teams in the league. And I'm not about to take one game and tell you that the Sabres are better than Tampa. Oh, bring them on if I got to deal with them in the first round. I'd still rather avoid that. You know, if I got to play them in a second round series, like, okay, I guess I can live with that. But where the Sabres are right now, after restarting the season with 3 straight wins on the road, is second place in the division, 76 points, ahead of Montreal, ahead of Detroit, ahead of Boston, and they're just 4 points back of Tampa. Tampa has played 2 fewer games, so there is that. The Sabres do host Tampa twice between now and the end of the year, so could get pretty tasty up at the top, but I'm going to just I'm not necessarily chasing Tampa. If I can catch them, great. I mostly want to just make sure I can get where I am now, maintain where I'm at now. Second or third in the division, to me, is the sweet spot. You avoid one of the top teams in the conference in the first round of the playoffs, and that's really that. I feel like that's greedy enough. If this changes again, if they roll off another few wins before they drop one and they climb even closer to Tampa, and Tampa sort of, cools off a little bit. I mean, it certainly cooled off Saturday night when the Sabres got out to a 5-0 lead on them. But we'll see. That's for future determination. Do I have it in me to chase down the Tampa Bay Lightning? But for right now, I'm here to tell you, without any disclaimers, they're good. This is a team that, to me, it would be stunning at this point to me if they collapsed badly enough that the playoff drought reached 15 years. I'm all but assuming they are going to be in. I don't even think it's that risky a thing to say. They are in a very comfortable position. So I think the goal should be strengthening the team now, trying to figure out where my weaknesses do lie. Yes, despite this great record they've got here in their last 30 games or 31 games, there are areas they could use to shore up. And so my mind is going to be on that. We've got the balance of the week here. The trade deadline is Friday afternoon during this show. So we've got a few days here, sort of hash out ideas. With that in mind, we'll be talking to Paul Hamilton today at 3:30. We'll talk to Joe Yurtton. It's been a while since we checked in with Joe on the Sabre beat and covering the NHL at large. That will be at 4 o'clock, and as I mentioned, we'll get Sal in at 5. I asked on Twitter, and I thought this might be like a fun sort of, not super intensive, get me a right shot power play D or something. Not that they need that. But, a little looser of a conversation is, to me, thinking about all the things you get back with the Sabres resurgence. Like how much the experience of being a Sabres fan has changed in the last couple of months. Because, speaking for myself, and I'm sure a lot of you are like this too, and I don't mean to paint this like it's some burden or something, but I always watch all the games. Like I'm there. There are, over the last few years, there are more and more instances where I'm unhappily watching, but I'm always there. I always find my way there, thick and thin. That just, I feel like in this job, that's not too much to ask. I don't think everybody that works here needs to adhere to that, but for me, I love hockey. I love the Sabres, even when they're down, even when I hate it, even when it's not good for my health. I'm sitting there. Obviously, that has turned. And I'm wondering, like, how long it took you, some of you out there, to sort of make the adjustment back to the Sabres becoming appointment viewing. Whether that means going to the arena in person and maybe using tickets you haven't been using or trying to find tickets that you haven't been searching for in a long time because you were kind of detached. Whether that means going out to watch games on nights where or afternoons where the games are on TV. Of course, they're all on TV. Getting together with friends, thinking about trades, thinking about the standings, thinking about the fact that the Detroit Red Wings are playing an afternoon game today against the Nashville Predators. It's tied at 1 early in the second. I'm not sure what the reasoning was putting an afternoon game on, but I'm a fan of sports being on at all kinds of different times, so I will take an actual meaningful, see, this is a thing we get back when the Sabres are good. The Detroit-Nashville game is meaningful. We should care about the Detroit outcome today. Go Predators. Unless you bet on Detroit -1.5, which maybe some of us did, but whatever. I'm hedging. You've got interest in the other games tonight. In fact, my wife texted me a little while ago before the show started and wanted to know, hockey tonight? ? And I said, not Sabres, but other games. And at the time, I didn't realize that this Detroit game was not going to be on tonight. It was very high on the list of games I wanted to watch tonight. My curiosity might get the best of me, and I may end up on Philadelphia-Toronto, even though I'm not really worried about either one of those teams. But I'm just kind of curious to check in on Toronto here a few days before the deadline and get a gauge for where they might be at. But how much has this sort of rebirth of the Sabres? It's been a long time. A lot of us probably got out of very familiar habits and checking the standings and caring about what these other teams are doing that are around them in the standings and all of that. I just think it's just such a familiar thing to have back that feels really special because it's been gone for so long. It's just, that's the way life works, right? We miss things when they disappear, and I think for a lot of Sabres fans, you may have, just to sort of, protect yourself, not to be too dramatic, you probably just sort of wall them off. I'm not that interested. I'm not paying attention. Leave them over there. And when you do that with something that you've cared about for like mostly your whole life, it takes a lot. It takes a lot out of you emotionally. And I just think what I find with me, and I am absolutely the fan who, as soon as there's a positive at all, I'm like, okay, well maybe, maybe, right? Because I've missed it so much. Having the ability to talk about this, to have these conversations with fans at 803-0550, 716 area code if you're out there, Rochester. It's been so long. And for me, professionally as well as personally, it's just been so different. Professionally, while I'll tell you I still was watching all these games, there were lots of times I would wonder why I'm even bothering, because I know how this works. We are not going to force a conversation about a hockey team that's languishing in last place out of a playoff race just because they played last night. It's not how this works. If we don't think you're paying attention, we're not going to talk about it because we feel like we have a responsibility to talk about the hockey team if people are detached from it. If they're not earning your interest and getting you excited, they're a B-roll topic. They're just, if anything notable happens, we're going to try to let you know, but soliciting opinions on them just got to be like a very deep, dry well is what the Sabres have felt like prior to like this December when it all started to turn around, and that turnaround has continued. I've made the point numerous times that even getting upset with them became really hard because I don't like, and you guys can do with this what you will, but I've always stood on this and will continue to stand on it. As soon as I can't stand on it, I don't think I'll do this anymore. We've been honest in here. Like I don't like to just, people might like it when I lose it, right? And oh boy, I can't wait to hear Bulldog rip the Sabres apart. Anytime I've gotten that sort of feedback on social media the last couple of years, I feel like I'm letting you down because I can't really muster it up. It would be fake. It would be performance art. I would be yelling for the sake of yelling. And I know, I have a radio show, and the object is to be entertaining. And while that might entertain you, it would make me feel like the worst possible version of myself if I did it. I guess I don't take enough pride in being, quote unquote, good at my job all the time, because I feel like being good at this job requires honesty. And the Sabres hadn't earned you or me getting angry at them. I didn't want to be someone who would be yelling about something that you, I think, explicitly out there had told us you no longer care about. For the time being, you don't care. So what is with the guy losing his mind about the team that's not good? They're never good, so what are you still mad about? It just felt a little ridiculous. And it's so refreshing to have that gone, and instead, in its place, have, what do you think of a first-round series against Montreal or Detroit? What if they fall into the wild card and end up with either Tampa or Carolina? That's a very close race right now. Carolina is ahead of Tampa by 2 points, 82-80. But one of those two teams is going to be, I think, the first seed. I mean, Pittsburgh is further back in second place of Carolina than the Sabres are of Tampa in the Atlantic. So, maybe that changes, but I think the way the year has gone, those two teams look like the top two teams. And sort of processing what a first-round series against one of the top seeds looks like, or thinking about Montreal or Detroit again, or Boston, I guess I should mention, as well in that group of teams, even though they're in the wild card right now, as are the Red Wings. Just thinking about sinking your teeth into that. I posed this question on social, on Twitter, a couple hours ago before the show got cranked up here. Like, what has changed for you? Like, what is different now that the Sabres are resurgent again? And a number of people talking about trying to arrange for being in town when the playoffs come around, for either game 1 or game 3. Like, you're going to get one or the other, and that is awesome to see. I know just from my own experience being out for a couple of games as this hot stretch got going, I know that's back. That's percolating. People are making it a point to go out and enjoy these games with fellow fans in bars. The arena is, the tickets are getting harder and harder to come by. I don't know. I haven't heard anything officially about parties in the plaza, but when we get to like really nice days, which are just around the corner here, boy, I sure hope that gets revisited. In fact, one of the responses I got on Twitter today from a fan said, I just want my kids to enjoy a party in the plaza. I want them to see what that's really like. Because, again, no playoffs for 14 years. You have not had the opportunity to really, get into that and do it. So there's a lot that comes with having the season the Sabres are having and just having the team back. It does point out how much you're really missing over so many of these years. And, it's easy for me to just sort of flip the switch and be right back in. Like, I'm always eager to do that. I have this job. I do like to talk about hockey, even when they're disappointing. But they haven't even been disappointing lately. They just lately, I mean, previous seasons to this one. The existence of the Sabre fan was just, I think detachment is the right way to put it. I think a lot of us were just sort of, they're over there. And thinking about moves to be made and signing this guy, not signing that guy, trades, all of it, paying attention to the other teams. So much of that stuff takes a hit over a 14-year playoff drought, and it just feels like maybe it's even a little overwhelming. There's like so much to like sort of dive back into, but man, I'm loving every bit of it. Nashville has taken a 2-1 lead on Detroit. It's squeezing in these urgent updates. It's March. Meaningful games in March. We made it. 803-0550 is the number. Aaron is first up this segment. Hi, Aaron. Thank you for calling. You're on the air here on WGR.
Hey, Bulldog. Just listening to you, I feel the same way. I was always a fan, just watching them hang on to hope that they might be good. I ended up getting a 10-pack this year, thinking that might be something. Started off the year, it was like, there might be something there, and then, it turned sour, and then the last few games over the last few months, like, so excited to be at the arena. It's great.
Well, good for you getting a 10-pack. That's got to feel really good right now. Like you said, maybe it didn't feel great in October, but man, to have tickets right now, I'm envious. Like I work in a place, Aaron, where over the course of the last 8 or 10 years, there are, we've been partners with the Sabres a long time. I know that's coming to an end here after this season, but still, we've had a partnership, which means there were tickets around all the time, and that has dried up. And you know what? As much as it would be great to be able to go, hey, look, there's a pair of 100 levels lying around here for tomorrow night. Like, that would be really convenient and great, but I love it. I love that there's demand for them. I love that they're not just going to go to waste. I love that people care again. So, boy, smart job getting in on a 10-game pack in a year where, I don't think to start there was a lot of reason to be optimistic. We were still sort of mired in the Kevin Adams time. Kevin Adams times. I don't know how to put it. Like, I didn't feel particularly optimistic. There were some projections that thought the Sabres could be better, but the year began and it didn't really look like that, and then it changed. So good job having your hands on some tickets. Phil is next up. Hi, Phil. Thanks for calling. You're on the air here on WGR.
Hi, thanks for taking my call. I just want to point out, I think, in my opinion, when Tuck made those comments after a post game during the win streak of, we're not here to just get in, we're here to make a Stanley Cup push, and I'm paraphrasing.
Yep.
I feel like that was the turning point of our season, and as a season ticket holder, I am so excited to get playoff hockey back. My wife has never experienced it, and she's going to be going to the games with me, and I am just so happy that our team is finally back, and we made a statement against Tampa, and that's all I wanted to say. Go Sabres, Bulldog.
All right, Phil. Appreciate that very much. Yeah, I don't think the season turned. In fact, they lost 3 of 4 after Tuck said that in the locker room after, when I don't remember who it was against. But what it might have done is gotten your attention, it got my attention. Like, someone in that locker room isn't talking about just trying to finish 8th. Like, they're willing to say it, and I think that was, given what they'd already accomplished, I think it was entirely appropriate. And I love that Tuck chose to do that. And they've come out of this Olympic break now winning 3 in a row in advance of returning home for a game tomorrow night against Vegas. And so it's not a turning point, but it may have been a turning point for the fans to hear a leader on the team talking like that about this team. Probably got your attention. Like the caller saying, maybe it got your wife's attention, and there's nothing bad about that. Alex is next up. Hi, Alex. Thanks for calling. You're on WGR.
Hey, Bulldog. Thank you for taking my call. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you for calling.
So, if I'm not mistaken, Lindy Ruff's in the last year of his contract, right? And I'm not sure if this question's been brought up with the success they've had. Is there talk of extending his contract, re-signing him? Does he even want to say dabble in that idea of re-signing with the Sabres for another couple of years. But what's that prospect look like?
I would think that if he wants to continue, and I don't know why they wouldn't want him to continue, that is not something that would be challenging by the time you get to the summer. You know, if Lindy Ruff were 30 years younger, maybe you'd be worried about him hitting any kind of an open market out there, but I don't think you really got to worry about it. I don't know whether he wants to keep going. I mean, this has got to be great right now, but there was a lot of chatter around the time that Adams was removed that there was going to be a shuffle, and that never came to fruition. They started winning, and kind of all bets were off at that point. So I don't know if that was something that he wanted, that the organization was trying to facilitate because Lindy wanted to, felt like, all right, I came back, I did a couple years, and let me go on to something else now, a different position, maybe in the front office. So I don't know where that is organizationally, but I wouldn't, if he wants to keep going, I don't think there's any reason that it'll change. But I don't know for sure that he does. So that might be something to be addressed once we get to the end of the season, which hopefully won't be for a good long while now. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to start throwing around Memorial Day or anything, but like let's go, right? Get through a round and see what happens as we make our way through April. It's just so great to have him back. Is really it. That's the message. It's just great to have him back. Saturday night, I was laughing. I don't want to say hysterically, but close to it. It's a Saturday night. I built my whole day around watching this game, and the gift was they chased Vasilevsky not even halfway through the second period with 5 goals. The guy hadn't lost in 2 months, and they're just running him out of their own rink. It was fantastic. Fantastic. Good job on the calls to get going here. We'll hit a timeout. Paul Hamilton will join me coming up after this, get his thoughts on practice today. There's some injury news, an update on Yuri Kulik. We'll get the lowdown on all of that from Paul when he joins me right after this. Joe Yurtton on the Sabres and the NHL at large coming up at 4. Sal Kapacio on the NFL at 5. I'm the Bulldog. Mike has the day off. Thanks for listening to WGR. It's easy now. Just say they're going to win. You'd only have been wrong 7 times in the last 31 games. Pretty good. Glad to have you along here on a Monday. Paul Hamilton coming up here in a moment. Couple of quick tweets I want to share on the subject I opened up talking about today, just how much have things changed for you as a Sabres fan now that they're back, that the playoffs are in the window and it feels very real. This one really resonated with me. Travis writes in, I've been with my wife now for 10 years, started watching the Sabres again every game in January, had to convince her and show her I was actually a fan for a long time before we ever met. She had no idea that I was ever into the Sabres. Love that. On the other side of things, an account with a long name here based on Tage Thompson says, what I really miss now is getting $6 tickets on StubHub. Yeah, I mean, that's just how it goes. I'll stand by what I said at the end of last segment. I'm glad that the free tickets aren't falling out of the sky anymore at work. Like, that's how it should be. It should be harder to get them, right? There should be more involved in it. 5:45 on a game night. Hey, you want to go? Sure. It's $6. It should be a little harder than that. So, I know financially the $6 ticket was pretty convenient. Paul Hamilton on the West Her Hotline joining me fresh off a road trip to Florida and another Sabres practice today. Paul, I know it's a job and, you're covering practice and you're writing stories and you're covering every game, and that really doesn't change whether the team is in second place or in 15th place. But overall, does this hot stretch the Sabres have had here, this hot half a season basically is what we're almost talking about, does it change anything from your perspective about doing your day-to-day job?
Yeah, it gives you something different to talk about because it got to the point where, you run out of asking the same question over and over again because you watch the same game over and over again, and the same players say the same thing over and over again. I mean, I remember when Jake McCabe said to me, he goes, Paul, I don't know what to tell you anymore. And I said, Jake, I don't know what to ask you anymore. I said, seriously. I said,
yeah.
It's we're both in the same boat. I mean, it's just, but, and I've said this to you before, I never, ever, ever lose sight of the fact that I cover hockey and football for a living. No matter how bad the hockey is. People have tweeted me, I feel sorry you have to watch this bad hockey. And I said, oh, please don't ever feel sorry for me.
Right.
I'm not out in 2 degrees digging ditches or out in 31-degree rain or whatever that is. I'm watching hockey for a living. And I understand that there are a lot of people in this world who do not enjoy their jobs at all. And I do, so I don't ever feel sorry for me, whether the hockey's good, the hockey's bad, or whatever. At the end of the day, I'm still covering hockey for a living. Right.
And now the phone just probably rings a little more frequently, including from me, right? I mean, because let's be honest. The last few years, after every game, it's not like, oh, we got to get Paul on at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock. We sort of relegated to just the pregame window because, like you're saying, how many times can you and myself and Mike have the same conversation over the course of a 14-year drought where it just looks like we're watching a slideshow from a previous family vacation? It's like the same pictures year over year over year, and it's finally different. And so, I hope you're okay with us bugging you a little bit more often.
Well, yeah, that's my job. I mean, everybody knows that I also do a Channel 2 show on Mondays, and usually I'm in the second segment, almost always. The Bills with Vic Carucci will always, and Benini will always be the first segment. Then John Scott and I do the second segment about the Sabres, and it's back to the Bills for the third. Well, guess what? Today I'm leading off with both Benini and Scott. I haven't been with both of them yet. So that just shows you right there. Sabres are leading the show off with the two main folks, and then the football will be second and third. So that just shows you right there where the interest is so much more.
I'm talking here, Paul, in this first segment about like believing in it. Like I think 24-5-2 speaks for itself over a 31 game stretch. I think to me there isn't anything fluky about what we're getting. I mean, if they had some good fortune here or there, sure. I mean, every hockey team's going to have that to some extent or another in a season, and you'll probably get some that end up some bad fortune along the way too. But do you believe in this right now? Like I said earlier, I'd be stunned if they missed the playoffs with the kind of form that they're in. I think they're good.
What did I tell you before the season started up again? They needed to be 12-12-1 to get to the point where the cutoff point. Well, they've just killed 3 of those wins. So what now? What is it? 9-12-1? I mean, you can play under three games under 500 if it's still the same numbers moving forward. So. And you don't want them to play 9-12-1. You don't want to limp into the playoffs, and you really don't even want them to go 500. I mean, you want them to be the team that showed up in Tampa the other night, and blew the Lightning right out the back door. I mean, that's as bad as I've seen the Lightning play, and I don't know how long since this group that they've put together. And it's been a long time. Kucherov and Hedman, and I've never seen that team pass as poorly as they did that night. Go offside constantly. Miss the net, throw the puck up the middle of the ice twice, and wind up with goals against. I've never seen him do that. Now, the Buffalo Sabres forced some of this too. I mean, with the way they played, it wasn't just the Lightning making mistakes. They were making the mistakes because the Sabres were playing fast, and they were on them, and forcing the Lightning into quick decisions. And that was a night where quick decisions weren't going well for them. And the things were going very well. The Sabres were playing direct. They were playing fast. The goal I loved probably the best, if I'm looking at a goal that shows you what the Sabres are about now, Owen Power, who I think has played much, much better for the most of this season.
Yep.
He causes a Sorelli turnover at his own blue line. Dahlin had been up ice. Power didn't even blink. He knew where Dahlin was. He got the puck and immediately put it up almost 2 lines up the left wing side to Dahlin to get him up into transition, and he winds up scoring on the play. But it's Power. Yeah, the turnover is important, but it's what he did with the turnover. It was so quick. It was turnover, bang, puck's gone, and it's right on Dahlin's stick. Now he's into the zone in an outnumbered situation, and he gives them the lead. I mean, I thought that right there is a good example of things we haven't seen in a long time from this team. And we're seeing it more and more as this season has gone on.
Paul Hamilton on the WGR hotline with us here on WGR. Sabres host Vegas tomorrow night in their first game back at home since the 20 or so day Olympic break. It'll be a Tage Thompson gold medal ceremony. We'll get to what he had to say about that and Eichel's involvement here in a bit, Paul. But it strikes me, I don't know if you were asked this question by myself or Mike at any point when this season started to turn around, or if we just never really got to it. But I'm curious, like, what do you think changed? We know the timing of the general manager, Kevin Adams, being replaced. We know how it coincided. I think they won 3 games before that, but it was sort of in the wind that something was going to happen before that hot streak started ahead of the holidays in December. What do you think happened here that this team now looks like they can go toe-to-toe with some of the best teams in the league?
Well, this is, for the most part, Kevin Adams' team. He got most of the players. I mean, Thompson, he, of course, was part of the O'Reilly deal, which was a little bit before.
Sure, yeah.
But for the most part, this is his team. And it wasn't what he was doing. It was, to me, what he wasn't doing, which I thought was his weakness of being inexperienced. Like when you lose 13 in a row and just sit there and do nothing. You didn't even call somebody up from Rochester. Nothing. And then this year, in the beginning of the year, you have 1 win in 9 games. Again, you just sat there and did nothing. I think, well, I know, actually, there were some players in that room who had no faith in him at all, that he would, that that he would do the right thing at the right time to help this team move forward. And, you know, and then in comes Kekalainen, who tells him, look, there's a lot of talent in this room, guys. And I really like the talent here. He goes, what I don't like is watching you guys play teams that you're better than and underperform and don't put forth the effort. And he goes, that changes today. And that's it, basically. I mean, all the players kind of confirmed that. Yep. That he goes, because they had heard the press conference. He goes, exactly what he told you. It was short. It was sweet. It was direct, which is the way he is. And I think the players felt, hey, wait, we're in the NHL again. You know, look, we got a guy who's done this for 10 years. He's going to hire a guy who also has done it for over 10 years. Yeah, let's go. And then the other thing was, too, that, and we saw it with Granato, now and then they would play the way Granato wanted them to, then they'd win, but not much because they're hard-headed and they want to do it their way. Same thing with Lindy last year. They did it for a bit. And then they wouldn't. At the end of the year, they did. And then, you know, it started to go well for them. And I think they finally just said, wait a minute, guys, what we want to do here isn't working. We sit in the bottom of the league when we do it our way, and we win hockey games when we do it Lindy's way. I got an idea. Why don't we do it Lindy's way for a while, see what happens? Well, you've seen what happens.
Yeah. It does really speak to how much effort, above and beyond effort, playing for the guy next to you, all that kind of stuff, very cliche stuff. It does really tell you how much of a difference it can make when you've got, on most nights, more guys than not paying the price. Because that, Paul, like the aggressive forecheck, how well they do at getting on top of teams in the offensive zone, a lot of that is effort. Of course, playing defense is almost entirely, of course, there's positional and understanding the system and all that sort of stuff too, right? The technical aspects of it. But mostly, you just got to want to get there, right? You want to put forth the effort to get back and break up a pass and, you know, lift a stick, whatever it is. And when you're not willing to go all out all the time or most of the time, you just don't get that. And that, to me, is the biggest change here. You know, like, because the players are the same. The system's not different. It's just they're dying to make plays now. And not just pretty offensive plays, but defensive plays, too.
Boy, I was looking around the room. I did not see you there today, but you basically repeated Lindy Ruff's speech.
Oh, really?
Really? I mean, what started it talking about the Norris play at the end of the first period. He had scored 2 goals. And I had Norris on at the end of the first as my walk-off interview, and it's one of the things I wanted to get to because maybe 2 minutes before the period ended, the Sabres were in a bad place. I don't remember who had the puck, but he was coming in on Luukkonen with a great chance. Norris just put his head down and skated as hard and fast as he could to get back. And he hassled that player enough that he kind of got a shot off, but it was an easy save for Luukkonen. It wasn't a grade A, type of thing. And all it was hustle to get back. And Lindy Ruff said today, in addition to what you just said, he goes, I would rather in a film room with the players show 5 of those clips than show 5 goals. He goes, I want the players to see that. He goes, because we're doing it now. Mm-hmm. He goes, almost every person on this team, if not everyone, has done that at some point recently, of just went all out. He goes, I don't care if you're tired. He goes, you still should have enough energy for one more burst to get back when you need to be back like that. And he said they're doing it. And he goes, that's so impressive to teammates and coaches to see players just going all out no matter what to help prevent a goal, to help a teammate. I talked today to Rasmus Dahlin and Noah Ostlund about Dahlin goes down. He's in a heap. I don't even know if Ostlund saw it. Guess who showed up first? The 21-year-old kid. He weighs, about 135 pounds? And he was there in a shot. He didn't think about it. He didn't care who it was. It's not his nature. He doesn't fight. He just got there as quick as he possibly could to help defend a teammate. And, folks, don't think that doesn't go unnoticed in the locker room. Tage Thompson today when we were talking to him was absolutely giddy about it. He said that is huge in the locker room to know that player's always got your back, and everybody else in the room has your back. Totally different from the situation that might have turned this team around after it happened. That when Tage went down and nobody came in for him, and they
against New Jersey last year. Yeah, right.
They all got in the locker room and said some things that needed to be said that maybe some ears didn't want to hear. And all of a sudden now you got Noah Ostlund, the 21-year-old kid, in the middle of it because his captain's laying on the ice. And that goes a long way, and it just seems like we're seeing more and more of that.
All right, Paul. I'm being told we're out of time, so we're gonna we'll put off the rest. I'll run through your Twitter and hopefully dot all the I's and cross all the T's about what Tage had to say about Eichel and whether he'll be a part of things, and then the injuries and whatnot. Thanks for this, and we'll catch up tomorrow.
Okay, take care.
There you go. That's our dude Paul Hamilton on the West Her Hotline. His appearances are brought to you by Raylax Honda. Raylax, we got this. All right, we'll hit a timeout, and lots more hockey. Like I said, your calls are welcomed at 803-0550, and Joe Yurtton on the Sabres and the NHL at large coming up at the top of the hour. I'm the Bulldog, and this is WGR. fooling around when he waved the finger at me and said, we got to go because I've got like 10 seconds here. I tried to go along with Paul, and that was all the time we had. I'll fill you in on the rest, Yuri Kulik update and everything else. Joe Yurtton right after this on the Sabres on WGR.
Just practice today for the Buffalo Sabres. They're going to return to home ice tomorrow night when they take on Las Vegas. Today, though, we did get some injury updates from head coach Lindy Ruff. Yuri Kulich is getting tests tomorrow to see if he can rejoin the team or just increase his workouts as he looks to return from blood clots. Sabres Injury Report is brought to you by Hamburg Overhead Door. Is your garage door injured? Call the experts at Hamburg Overhead Door to get your door healthy again. And then over in the NFL, a very busy day, especially for the Houston Texans. Houston started the morning off by sending right tackle Titus Howard to Cleveland for a fifth-rounder. Howard then signed a 3-year, $63 million extension with the Browns. And then following that, Houston acquired running back David Montgomery from Detroit for a fourth, a seventh, and center Juice Scruggs. Some other notes, the Bengals are locking in guard Dalton Reisner to a one-year deal worth up to $5 million, and then some roster cuts as the Chiefs will be releasing tackle Juwan Taylor, and the Commanders moving off of cornerback Marshawn Lattimore. It's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet with you for the extra mile since 1935. I'm Zach Jones on Western New York's Voice of the Fan, WGR.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
They have this Panther sound effect that is just the cheesiest, stupidest sounding thing. Big voice guy going, Panther goal scored by Sam Reinhart.
Where'd you get that thing? I trapped it. Been keeping it in my bathroom at the motel, feeding it old pizza.
It's Mike Schopp.
If you're calm, that wondrous big cat will be calm too. But if you're scared, that beautiful death machine will do what God made it to do, namely, eat you with a smile on its face.
And the Bulldog. On WGR, Sports Radio 550.
Yeah, I'm not the sort to get really territorial about stuff, and it's not like I've got a trademark on that thing. But I have noticed, I saw Florida on a TNT game recently, like within the last few weeks, I would say. And someone on that panel there, I don't know if Lundqvist was there this night. He doesn't strike me as someone who'd be doing the cat imitation, the Panther growl imitation. Maybe it's Biz, maybe it's Anson Carter. I don't know. I think Liam was probably talking, the host, but someone on that panel is giving the Panther growl a go, and they need me. They need to come to the source. Because it just was not cutting it, in my opinion. Again, just trying to lift all boats. That's what we're all about here on the afternoon show. Glad to have you with us. Mike is not out sick today. It's a scheduled day off. He'll hopefully be back tomorrow. I am the Bulldog. Joining me now on the Western Hotline is our buddy Joe Yurtton from Bleacher Report, covering the Sabres and the NHL at large. Buddy, what the hell, man? It's been a while. How's it going?
It's going good. I was watching Sabres Panthers, obviously, and heard that cat growl in the background. And every time I hear it, I just think of you and that bump coming on the air, and I just laugh every time because your imitation is the one that just absolutely kills me.
Way to butter me up. This is I'm begging for accolades, and Joe's right here, ready to dole them out. Yeah, man, like it's a good time, right? I mean, it's a good time to be a hockey writer. It's a good time to be a hockey fan. I want to ask you, Joe, because I know we talked last year, but I don't think we've talked at all this season. If we have, maybe I was out when we did. Certainly hasn't been since they've been rolling like they've been rolling and looking like the wagon that they've become. What do you think changed for that? I just asked Paul this question. I don't think I'd asked him all these months as the Sabres have put up this great record. What flipped the switch for them? Because it's impossible not to connect the dots of Kevin Adams' removal with this team getting blowtorch hot like they did when they did. Do you think it's as simple as that? Because, there's not an analytic that I can point to that tells you his removal changed everything, but the timing is, pretty evident.
Yeah, the narrative that gets built out of this season is certainly going to point to that moment as the turning point. But it's still always funny to me to think that he got canned after they started winning games. They're on they're already 3 games deep into that 10-game win streak when they fired him. Although I think during that 6-game road trip out to Western Canada, after they lost that game to Calgary, I think everybody I mean, everybody. I mean, we all figured it, and I think everybody on the team and the front office all figured somebody's getting canned here, and it's probably going to be Kevin Adams. And I don't know if that loss was just like the trigger point for everything. And at this point, you probably have to point at it and say, yeah, it was. But that was such a bad loss because it was a poorly played game by both teams, and it was an eminently winnable one for Buffalo. And it's just, they lose the first 2 games of that trip, and you're just like, oh boy, here we go. Like that was a trip that when they headed out west, I was like, they probably need 8 points to stay alive.
Yeah.
Out of those 6 games, and they start 0-3, and you're like, boy, 6 points, you better get 6.
Right.
And then you start compromising with yourself, thinking about it. It's like, well, if they come home with 4, I don't know, maybe. Well, Kevin's probably gone, and then I don't know, maybe a coach, or maybe I don't know if Lindy goes. Like, you're just going through your mind of like, well, what's next for this franchise? Like, you're like, what new disaster awaits us when they get back? And they win 3 in a row, and you're like, all right, well, they saved face, sort of.
Yeah.
And then Kevin's fired, and you're like, okay. And then they had that. I think it was a game against Philly. Here was the 4th game, and that was on TNT. And everybody on that, and I say this with full admission, I work, adjacent to the guys on TNT. Everybody there seemed ready to bury the Sabres, and instead the Sabres came out and played a really good game and played really hard, and it was like, oh, all right, maybe they got something cooking here. It's 4 in a row. Let's see what happens. And then it just hasn't stopped ever since. And, whether it's Kevin getting canned or everybody realizing Kevin getting canned was going to be it, or that Calgary loss. And mind you, they got swept by the Flames, who are a lottery team. They're going to have a top 5 pick. Getting swept by them, and in ugly fashion on both ends of that, might have been the moment where all the leaders come together and go like, boys, if we don't figure this out, and if we don't start holding each other's feet to the fire, we're all going, this is done. This whole thing's done, and who knows where we go after this.
Joe, Lindy's part in that. I had somebody call me earlier today already asking about his future, and it reminds you that there was, along with the scuttlebutt about Adams, that hit around the point in that trip when it turned around. They won on a Tuesday night, I think, in Edmonton to start the streak. There was a lot of chatter. I'm sure you heard it too, that the coaching staff, there might be like Lindy bumping upstairs or just something, and haven't really thought about that because, the results have been so good, and the conversation has shifted to, trade deadline additions and playoff matchups and all kinds of different things that have been really foreign subjects for us in Saberland for, 10, 15 years now. What do you think about Lindy? Like, this caller was asking me, like, do you think he wants to keep going? Like, will they extend him once this year is over? And I'm like, I think if he wants to, they will, but I don't know if a part of him going upstairs wasn't maybe what he wanted at this stage of his life.
Thinking back to that point, which, the coaching scuttlebutt thing was all that was maybe the wildest part of that bad start to that trip, because John Tortorella's name's getting thrown around. Lindy's got to go upstairs. Kevin's got to get a different job. Like all this other stuff that was being said, and it was just like, man, that is too much craziness. That is just too much nonsense to throw out at once. When, granted, things were in a really bad spot at that point, and that kind of a drastic change would make sense, given that like you're trying to save face, you're trying to get people to buy tickets, trying to win games, and. I think with Lindy now, and I'd asked him today because he was talking about how they were working, they spent part of practice today working on, doing like little things of, in the neutral zone work, and like the kind of stuff that like real hardcore like hockey coaching nerds loved seeing. And I'm not a hockey coaching nerd, but I am a humongous hockey nerd, and watching them work on these little things in the neutral zone, and Lindy just like, yelling, but not like yelling at them, but like, let's do it again, do better, let's do this, start over, like doing all this stuff. I'm like, oh man, he is in his element now. Like, this is the stuff he wants to be doing. When it's constant, like all right, let's run these lines and see if these guys work. Let's let's do this. Let's work on dump ins. Let's work on line. All the basic stuff that they've had to like kind of figure out how to do the last 11 years, 12 years, how to do these things over and over again. Now you're doing like the minutia stuff. And Lindy said, boy, I love doing this stuff now. Like, this is way better than like everything else. Like, when a guy like Lindy, who's, his whole life's been coaching at this point, well, half of his hockey life has been coaching, right. And he's like getting to dig in and like work on like gap control and making sure the forwards are on top of their guy in the neutral zone to cut him off and steal the puck, go the other way. This kind of stuff is like makes me say like, boy, this isn't a guy that wants to like do anything else but coach. And right. I see, you see that kind of thing, and like you see the fire back in his eyes a bit. He's not the same, hot under the collar Lindy that he was back in the day, before I even got here, which is, still ancient history, but he's still a guy that just loves doing this. And now that the team is winning and they're doing it the way he wants them to do it, and they're listening to him and they're having success, it's the perfect storm for Lindy to be like, you know what? Maybe I can still do this. I mean, yeah, he's 65 years old, but like, I don't know, if the guys are playing hard for him and they're listening to him and they're doing what he wants them to do, why mess with it? Like, that's kind of like the whole approach right now with the deadline. Why mess with anything that they're doing right now? There's no reason to kind of upset the apple cart.
We will get to that. Joe Yurtton, longtime on the Sabres and NHL beat, currently with Bleacher Report, is my guest here on the West Her Hotline. I talked to Paul already earlier today, Joe, and he mentioned that Lindy talked about how the players have taken some ownership and just, they're policing one another in a way that sort of, it speaks to what you're saying about Lindy. Maybe peak enjoyment of the job right now is not having to, like, for lack of a better way to put it, be as much of a babysitter as it is working on these little details, which I love hearing. I feel like this year's Sabres team, because of the way they were constructed, who constructed them, Kevin Adams, the roster did not change, but the results did, really speaks to talent without effort isn't really going to get you anywhere, because everything that they're about now, the forecheck being as dangerous as it is and them being as tight often enough anyway, to my eyes, defensively, is all about maxing out effort.
Oh yeah, no, it's 100% that. And it's, the thing that was always said about the Sabres, I mean, this is going back a few years now, going back to, when they finished a point out of the playoffs, and that team, you think back to that team and you're like, man, they almost made it. It's like, yeah, they probably would have got their teeth kicked in by Boston in the first round, given how hot and cold they were that whole season. But like, even that team wasn't doing a lot of the, wasn't sticking to details. Granted, different coach, that's Don Granato's team, but like, the way that they're doing this with Lindy is that Lindy's been classic Lindy. Like, he's been hard on them from the start. And, he said, I remember some of the stuff he was saying last year where guys would make mistakes in games, and he was just kind of pulling back a little bit, because he's like, I got to get to know these guys before I really lay into them and get under them and say, hey, listen, if you're not going to carry your weight, you're not playing. You're not going to play minutes, and you're not going to be in games. And I did wonder that maybe there was a point early on in that time last season where he thought, like, geez, maybe I should have started putting a boot in their rear end sooner, because maybe this would have gotten this ball rolling a lot quicker than it did. But, I think right now we're at the point where everything's working out for a reason. And you see how it's working. And, they've made some subtle changes to the lineup. I mean, it's not really subtle with the way a guy like Josh Doan plays. Right. But, you make these little changes and add these different guys in there, and suddenly it's like, okay, this is what he envisioned. This is what what Lindy wants to see out of these guys. And you get the buy-in, too. Right? Winning games helps. Like, if you're not winning games, nobody's going to buy into anything. We've seen that plenty. But the effort that's expended and the way that they're able to just frustrate teams by just getting right on top of them and just being relentless with it, it's a total throwback. It's a total throwback to like the 98, 99 teams. Now, granted, they didn't have the offensive firepower this right. team does, but it's the same sort of like get on top of everybody kind of effort. And I think that's that's really a trademark of how Lindy's best teams have always played.
Yeah, you hear every year, and I've heard lots of guys who've played in the league say this, like I think Alex Lyon said it earlier this year, every year in the offseason, 32 teams want to become harder to play against, right? It is the hallmark, and there's a lot of different ways that can be represented and come to fruition on the ice, but never giving up on plays is a great place to start. At any level of hockey, the most annoying guy is the guy that you beat, but then he's back. Like, I thought I already stick-handled past you. Why are you nipping at my heels again? Because you didn't give up. You didn't glide back. You're coming back hard, and it's just great. Even Tage Thompson is holding down a center spot when it seemed, last year and earlier this year, Lindy liked him on the wing, and I think that was all about defensive shortcomings. But Norris being out for as long as he was sort of forced their hand, and Kulik too. So you had to play Thompson there, and lo and behold, like, it's taken hold again, and you've got him back, I think, in a spot that he prefers. And to me, I don't think his defensive play has hurt them at all.
No, and you could point out some pretty obvious situations early in the season where, Tage may not have had like the best effort in defending or getting back in a play. I mean, sometimes it happened. Like, I know there was a couple of overtime games where it was like, oh boy.
There was a sequence in a game in Philadelphia that I remember tweeting. Like the outlet pass was bad. It hit him in the pants. It hit him in the back. But his effort, the play I'm talking about, like that. I quote tweeted that and said, like, Bill Guerin's friends are going to be sending him that about the Olympic team. I was like, dude, you're hurting yourself. You're really, you're not doing yourself any favors here. But yeah, I think that has changed too.
Yeah, and it's that's part of like the whole talk of the guys in the leadership group holding each other accountable, because there was another game, I think it might have been one of the games in Boston. And it was like a 50-50 puck. It's 3-on-3 OT, and it's there's already two guys in the Sabres attacking in the one end, and it's a 50-50 puck, and Tage just kind of like skates up and throws his stick at it to try to keep it in the zone, and it jumps over his stick, and then suddenly it's a 2-on-1, 3-on-1 the other way, and Dahlin's just kind of stuck holding the bag and trying to defend it, and that didn't go their way. And I wonder if that's one of those games where it's, Dahlin is just pulling him aside going like, buddy, if you're going for that puck, you got to get the puck.
Yeah.
And it's that kind of rededication to playing the right way. It's such a cliche, but like it's totally the right way, where you're not taking a risk like that and leaving your teammates, hung out to dry. It's getting back in plays. It's getting involved in these different, if a team's trying to break out the other way, it's hauling down ice and making sure you're getting, get a stick in the way. Whack them from behind, but don't get a penalty. Like whatever it takes to try to stop a play, they're doing it. And I mean, we've seen Josh Doan do that all season. We saw Josh Norris do it against Tampa Bay, where he could have been coasting on having a couple of goals, but then he makes a great back check to break up a scoring opportunity, and it's like, oh boy, they were going to roll these guys tonight. Like, it was just that kind of effort in a game where you're already up by like 3-4 goals, and you're still seeing that, and it's like, oh, this team is definitely wired differently than like every other Sabres team we've watched for 15 years.
Joe Yurtton of Bleacher Report on the Sabres and NHL beat on the Western Hotline for a few more minutes. All right, you already alluded to it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And nothing's broke here, but I think there's a couple of areas that I think a lot of fans have identified. What about you as the trade deadline approaches on Friday? What do you think the Sabres are in the market for, if you know, or think they should be in the market for?
Well, as far as what I know that Jarmo Kekalainen has everybody's lips sealed, because we used to get some like little whispers here and there. We're not getting any of that stuff now. So I think Jarmo's scared everybody into silence. So that's probably better as far as the Sabres are concerned. What I think they're going to look at though is somebody for the third pair on defense. It's not to take away anything from Zach Metza or Jacob Bryson, who was playing well for a bit before the break, but the last few games before the break were not great. Mets has looked very good all season, I think, but I think they want to make that third pair one where it's not just playing them for 8 minutes a night. I think they want to give them a little bit more time just to kind of give that top four a break, because they've leaned on them very hard. And I mean, listen, those guys have responded. They've played great. But I think you want to be better depth wise. And I think that means getting a lefty shot to go with Kesselring. Well, Kesselring is, trying to find his game still here. And, he's been guilty of crimes of passion for trying too hard. But I think if you get somebody that can play on the left side and balance that out, I think you're probably in a much better place. Aside from that, I mean, geez, I don't know, maybe somebody for the bottom six. Maybe you're looking at a forward there to kind of, again, add some depth.
Yep.
I know the pitchforks have been out for Jack Quinn for some time. I get it. I get it. But
guilty.
When he's hot, when he's hot and he's helping out offensively, he's really good. And Lindy does he loves that Jack's put the effort in. I think that's a huge part. That is a huge part for why he's, that they've kept that line together, and he's been getting, those minutes on the power play. I think there's a creativity in his game. I'd love to see him shoot way more. I think his shot's better than his passing, but he's been really good at setting up other guys throughout the year. But the defensive game needs work, which, I'm sure that's probably making, Lindy grind his teeth a little bit. But I mean, geez, if that's your biggest issue right now is what's happening with your third line right winger, you're probably doing pretty well. And hey, look, the Sabres are doing pretty well.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I'm not anti take a big swing, but I mostly would like maybe, I don't know, a 28 or 30-year-old version of Quinn if I could replace him. And I might even pay the price of Quinn in that trade if such a player is out there and the asking price makes sense, because I do feel like while I do think his offense has value, I'm just not – he's the one guy I feel like I'm not sure I trust 200 feet, So I land on that. Speaking of the defenseman edition, Zach filled me in, I think, just before you joined us, Joe. I'm not sure. Was this from Elliot Friedman? Zach, is that what? Yeah. Elliot Friedman reports that a slew of Sabre front office personnel led by Mark Bergevin is going to be in Toronto tonight to watch the Ristolainen-led Flyers against the Oliver Ekman-Larson-led Maple Leafs, perhaps. A pair of teams. I mean, those are weighty contracts, both of them. So I'm not sure that there's a fit there. And really, neither of those guys have been a third pair guy in their career. But boy, if they could settle into that, I mean, that would be a real nice ad. Either one, I'd say, for the role we're talking about. We know what Ristolainen's reputation was here as a top pair guy. I think in a different role, maybe that could work. But I totally agree with you on some other piece there, because Kesselring to me has just been so on and off with injuries, mostly off, that I'm not sure I trust him. Mets has got incredible metrics, but I'm sure that they're sheltering him, and that's got to be helping that along to some extent. And, you'll be sheltering whoever this is, like, again, Ristolainen in third pair minutes, maybe that's a very different thing than when he was playing 24 minutes a night for you.
Yeah, and seeing the way he played at the Olympics, and basically ever since he's come back from the triceps surgery that he had, which was, just brutal. Talking to him the last time Philly was in town, he talks about how painful that was and how aggravating it was to sort through that. But I think watching him play in the Olympics was this goes back to when he played here. We're like, man, you get that guy in the playoffs playing the way he does, you got a guy that you're like, okay, just keep him, let him go out and hit guys, play hard, and then, maybe not have him out there in the high leverage situations. You'd probably you'd have a good time watching him just make other players miserable by, killing them in the corners, crushing them on the wall, and just being a, big bear to deal with. it'd be a lot of fun, and it would be a real great sweetheart story if he came back here.
Right.
But that's an awkward fit to me because again, it's another righty, another righty, third pair. If it's him and Kesselring working together, I don't know if that necessarily works that great. I think Ekman Larsson's a lefty. Played on the cup, the Panthers Cup winning team. So like, there is some of that experience, and like the guy's smooth with the puck. He's just an older version of what he used to be. So he's not quite as quick, but he plays with a little bit more edge. So like that's good. He'd be a great pickup. It's just I don't know that the Leafs. Well, I don't know. The Leafs certainly did a lot to. Or no, I'm thinking of the Bruins helping out everybody in the division last year. The Leafs tried to benefit from that with Brandon Carlo coming in, but that hasn't worked out either. But
no, that's like a lottery pick now, which is awfully tough. I mean, not to be crying tears for Toronto, but yeah,
right.
Well,
but it's but yeah, this is I think a defenseman almost seems like an automatic kind of move, but there's so few teams that are actually saying they're selling. Everybody else is wants to buy. So like, what's the cost going to be?
Right. The thing that's undeniable, Joe, is that those top four on this team, and we'll wrap it up here. I mean, the way that Power, Byram, Dahlin, and Samuelsson just dominate games to me is absolutely this team's superpower. It is a joy to watch. Those four guys all over the ice.
Yeah, it's honestly, and it's to me that's my favorite part of like what's kind of helped this team unlock itself this year is watching all four of them like hit their stride like simultaneously. Like Dahlin's been doing it for a few years. Samuelsson, everybody was getting really frustrated with, and then now he's like God on the blue line, and you're like, where did this guy come from? And Byram and Power still has fans grumping at him. This dude's defensive metrics are out of this world good. And, like, people still want him to go, drill guys into the wall. And it's like, he doesn't need to. Like, he's already denying him at the blue line, and they can't get around him. So, take him for what he is, and, the offense starts falling behind. And, boy, oh, boy, you're talking 45 minutes of your game, maybe even 50 minutes of your game taken up with, two of those four on the ice at all times.
It really is. It's a lot of fun. Should be a fun week here, Joe, and an interesting spring to say the least. Let's hope this isn't the last time we call on you to join us on our show, because I really enjoyed catching up, and it's good to have, for the first time since we've known each other, a good team to talk about, which is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, meaningful games in March, and it's not sarcastic. Isn't that beautiful?
Go figure. All right, Joe. Enjoyed it very much, man. Be well, and keep up the good work.
Thanks, Chris. Great to talk to you.
That's our dude, Joe Yurtton from Bleacher Report, long time on the Sabres beat and the NHL beat. Getting in on this year's Sabres a few days in advance of the trade deadline. We'll talk more about how your hockey watching, your Sabres habit has changed here in the last few weeks or months with the Sabres resurgence here. Got a lot of good input on Twitter today, but your calls are certainly welcome. You want to talk about things you're doing differently now, welcoming back the Sabres into your lives. It's really nice. Didn't see it coming, but here we are, and it is awesome. 803-0550 is the phone number if you would like to get in on the conversation. Mike is off today. I am the Bulldog. This is WGR.
been so long, all the feels are gone. Fella stopped me on the street last night, said everything's alright. Roller coaster, make it through the day, I'm right. It seems your meal ticket is gone, but life goes on. I could never.
Blood clots. Sabres Injury Report is brought to you by Hamburg Overhead Door. Is your garage door injured? Call the experts at Hamburg Overhead Door to get your door healthy again. Staying with the NHL, the trade deadline is coming up Friday at 3 p.m., but we are getting deals early as the Oilers are acquiring defenseman Connor Murphy from the Chicago Blackhawks for a 2028 second-round pick. Chicago is also retaining 50% of Murphy's salary. And then over to the NFL, also trades going on there, especially for the Houston Texans. The Texans started the day by sending right tackle Titus Howard to Cleveland for a fifth-rounder. Howard then signed a 3-year, $63 million extension with Cleveland. And then following that, Houston acquired running back David Montgomery from Detroit for a fourth, a seventh, and center Juice Scruggs. And then some other notes in the NFL. The Bengals locking in guard Dalton Risner to a one-year deal worth up to $5 million. And then roster cuts, the Chiefs releasing tackle Juwan Taylor, and the Commanders moving off of cornerback Marshawn Lattimore. It's Paddock Chevrolet Sports Headlines. Paddock Chevrolet with you for the extra mile since 1935. I'm Zach Jones on Western New York's Voice of the Fan, WGR.
What I think they're going to look at, though, somebody for the third pair on defense. You know, Mets has looked very good all season, I think, but I think they want to that third pair one where it's not just playing them for 8 minutes a night. I think they want to give them a little bit more time just to kind of give that top four a break. You want to be better depth-wise. Aside from that, maybe somebody for the bottom six. Maybe you're looking at a forward there to kind of, again, add some depth.
Joe Yurtton from the previous segment talking about some trade deadline targets. Zach Jones just filled you in on one whose name did not come up. We were running tight on time. Mentioned how it's Chris Johnston, by the way, Toronto-based hockey writer, National Hockey League writer, who says the Sabres have a group of front office scouting personnel on the way up to Toronto or in Toronto to watch tonight's Flyers-Leafs game, led by Mark Bergevin, assistant GM, I believe is his title. And there's a couple of defensemen there, Ristolainen on the Flyers, Oliver Ekman-Larsson on the Leafs. A name I was going to mention him, because I'm glad I didn't, because he'd already been traded by the time I was going to bring it up to Joe, was Connor Murphy of the Blackhawks. But he goes to Edmonton for a second-round pick. Chicago's keeping half the salary. We'll probably see plenty of that as the trade deadline approaches on Friday. But that's a name to scratch off your list if it was on it at all. It was on mine. I thought it could have been a fit. I'm really just looking for experience. I don't need you to be a high-end offensive producer, just someone I can count on to maybe eat some shot blocks, kill the odd penalty, and just upgrade their overall defensive depth. That's what I'm seeking mostly from this deadline. And Murphy, to me, was someone who maybe doesn't have the name recognition these other guys have. Ristolainen certainly we're familiar with, and Oliver Ekman-Larsson, veteran player, won the Cup with Florida a couple years ago. More, household name type guys. But Murphy, to me, would have been a fine target, but that's gone because he's on his way to Edmonton. I am the Bulldog. Mike has the day off today. Sabres play tomorrow night against Vegas. Vegas has some injury concerns. Mark Stone, I was watching their game in Pittsburgh yesterday afternoon. They got shut out 5-0, Vegas did, in Pittsburgh. And in the middle of that game, Mark Stone left. Their coach today, I think they're in town already, Vegas are, said he's day-to-day, and so I guess we don't have definitive word, but I'm guessing he won't be in the lineup tomorrow, but who knows? Maybe he'll feel better, but that's one note. Zach gave you all the rest of it. The big news today was that Yuri Kulik is another check-in with doctors, get some tests done from maybe ramping up his activity to the point where he could rejoin the team, but they got to clear another threshold, and I think that's coming within the next 12 to 24 hours. So hopefully some good news there. It's funny, I was with a friend last night who asked me, like, what is going on with Kulich? I'm like, we just don't hear anything that regularly because of the nature of the injury, but there was an update on him today, so cross your fingers on that maybe, well, certainly that his health is continuing to improve and that maybe he can at some point be of help to the hockey team because that's a player that showed a lot of promise, I think, last year before this year completely derailed on him. 716-803-0550 is the phone number. You want to get in and talk some puck here. The Sabres kind of changing the lives of their fans. I mean, that's a little strong, a little dramatic, but if you've had the Sabres as an afterthought for any amount of time here, could have been 10 years, could have been a year, I don't know, could have been a few months. That certainly has changed now, and I'm loving a lot of the feedback I'm getting on Twitter. I'll share some of that in a bit here, but Jim is up first this segment. Hi, Jim. Thanks for calling. You're on WGR.
Yeah, Bulldog, I got chill bumps, man, because I was at the 75 Stanley Cup playoffs and the 99 Stanley Cup playoffs. This town goes bonkers. I mean, even at work, on the phone in a plant, you'd hear bop, 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 bop. It was all over, and everybody was so excited, and you watch every check, every shot, every fight, everything. It's just so, I know what's coming. So I can't, that's why I had to call and tell people it's going to be unbelievable. It's so great. I'm just a hockey fan, but those Stanley Cup playoffs, the whole playoffs are so exciting, So I just had to let you guys know and what's coming. It's a nice thing for Buffalo to have coming, I'm telling you.
All right, Jim. Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, very, very much looking forward to it. It's crazy. I think about every now and then. I mean, Mike and I, we just had a nice piece written about us in Buffalo Spree magazine. If you happen to see it at the grocery store, check out, pick it up. Professional photos and everything. And like thinking about like 23 years, Mike and I have been together doing this show, which I'm fiercely proud of. I mean, really, like in this business, that's a hardy run. So I really I've enjoyed it. I'm proud of it. It's incredible to think that it's 23 years and the last 14 have had no hockey playoffs. I mean, it's so much of our time together. And when we first got paired together, it was September of 2003. And so, yeah, we went through a lockout, but eventually coming out of the lockout, we all know how good the Sabres got very quickly in 05, 06, and 06, 07. I mean, that was great. We were just getting to know each other, for crying out loud. And here we are all these years later, and it's just been so long since we've had that. But we were talking about this the other day. I've said for years now, year over year, at this time of the year especially, right? The clocks switch next Sunday, right? Next Saturday night into Sunday, the days start to get longer. And at this time of the year, when you're in a hockey town, a hockey market with a team that's in the playoffs or going to the playoffs, it just feels so different. It's light out before, the games are beginning and it's still, it's spring and it just feels like such a hopeful, exciting time. And we just have had none of that for so many of these years. We barely even had races. I mean, there was a few years ago, the first year Florida went to the final and lost, the Sabres missed by a point. That was a year where pretty recently we at least had a race, right? But it was for eighth. It was for the last spot. The Sabres are second in the division right now. Detroit looks like they're going to win in regulation and pick up 2 points, and they will then be tied with the Sabres, but Buffalo will stay ahead because Detroit will have now played one more game. That's right. There's an afternoon game today in the NHL that involves a team in the Sabres division that they're racing with, so they just picked up an empty netter, and they're 16.8 seconds away from parking this one safely in the place where, if you're fortunate enough to have a garage, where you park your car. But anyway, everything just sort of is percolating at this time of the year, and of course the weeks to come here. Once the clocks do switch, once we get to big games for the standings, big games for playoff matchups, big games for seeding, and then of course eventually the actual playoff games themselves. There is a vibe around town. It's just play a game, day off, uneasy, anxiety. Oh, next day, it's okay. There's another game the next day. Like, it's just such a rhythm to it. Man, I've missed it so much, and I'm sure a lot of you have. You've filled up my Twitter feed with it today, and I'm really enjoying this conversation today. Let's keep her going. Josh is next up. Hi, Josh. Thanks for calling. You're on the air here on WGR.
It's great to be here. Thanks a lot for taking my phone call. Gentlemen, we don't want to just participate in postseason play. It's been 14 years, make no mistake. We don't want to be a participant. We want to dominate the playoffs. And as we know, the regular season and the playoffs are two different things. There are some three things that we need on this team to have playoff success. Listen, I know Lyon. He's having a great season. He looks great. I can't say enough good things about Lyon. UPL, we had questions about that, and Ellis is Ellis. But I think we need a little more goaltending prosperity. I do not want to go into the playoffs and when it's all said and done say, gee, I wish we had the goaltending. If we got someone right now, and Yurtton knows exactly what we need someone back there, reliable, dependable, maybe a step up. Igor Shesterkin, I don't know. It could happen, but I need someone in there that's profound there as well. Defensive depth, have some relief to our top four, totally understandable. And the Sabres are dead last on the faceoff dot. Dead last. When you see the Sabres win the faceoff and gain puck control, they're moving it. Tic-tac-toe is beautiful. It's like poetry in motion. We need more of that, and the only way we're going to get that is winning more faceoffs. So get a veteran on that forward line depth. Get a specialized player who wins, draws, add to our top 4D, and let's get a veteran goalie back there so we're not reminiscing down the road saying we should have got a number one guy there as well.
All right, Josh, thank you. I hate to cut you off. We're getting very tight on time this segment, and I don't want to have happen what happened last hour at this time to happen again. There was a lot there. We got to take a break. I'm Shesterkin? Okay, I mean, welcome back, everyone. Sabres, we're out here. 8-0, that's just not happening. And goaltending has been a strength of this team, I think, which I know it's not maybe comfortable to say, but this team is not trading for Igor Shesterkin. 803-0550 is the number. Thank you for the call, Josh. Appreciate it very much. I'm the Bulldog. You're listening to WGR. Thanks for hanging with us on this Monday afternoon. Mike's got the day off today. I am the Bulldog. Let's see. We have a minute less, minute and a half. I think we can do it. Mike, you're first up, but time is tight here on WGR. Thanks for calling. What's up?
Good afternoon, Bulldog. I really do. I'm really excited for the playoffs to come around in Buffalo. I mean, we've been waiting for it for years now, and now that it's almost there, and look at where Toronto is now. We can still laugh at them.
Yeah, that definitely is true. Yeah, I mean they're in last place in the Atlantic. They are playing Philadelphia tonight, and the big question with, well, I guess both of those teams, but especially Toronto, this has been a foreign concept to them, the idea of selling guys off. But that's where we're at with them. They are, I mean, they're in last place. They're 63 points. I mean, they're not, dead, but come on. They're running out of runway here, and I wonder what that is going to look and sound like when and if they start just selling off pieces. I mean, I don't think the top guys are being touched here. I mean, they did a big thing last year by moving Marner out of there, but for them to be a franchise that is selling off rentals at the deadline is a very foreign concept here. That is not, there's been a solid run here since they drafted first overall and got Austin Matthews. It's been a long time since they've been in a position to have to handle a deadline this way, and it certainly is what they need to do. The idea of them adding to try to make up ground and get to a wild card spot just seems insane to me for them. So we'll see. Sabres front office personnel going to check out Leafs and Flyers tonight. Sal Kapacio right after this on WGR.
Just practice today for the Buffalo Sabres as they'll return to home ice tomorrow night versus Las Vegas. We did, though, get an injury update from head coach Lindy Ruff as it concerns Yuri Kulik, who is getting tests tomorrow to see if he can rejoin the team or just increase his workouts as he continues to recover from blood clots. Sabres Injury Report, it is brought to you by Hamburg Overhead Door. Is your garage door injured? Call the experts at Hamburg Overhead Door to get your door healthy again. And while the trade deadline in the NHL is not until Friday at 3 p.m., we are starting to have some deals coming in as the Oilers are acquiring defenseman Connor Murphy from the Chicago Blackhawks for a 2028 second-round pick. Chicago is also retaining 50% of Murphy's salary. And speaking of trades, the NFL had themselves a day as well, especially the Houston Texans, as the Texans started the day by sending right tackle Titus Howard to Cleveland for a fifth-rounder. Howard then signed a 3-year, $63 million extension with the Browns. And then following that, Houston then acquired running back David Montgomery from Detroit for a fourth, a seventh, and center Juice Scruggs. And then some other notes in the NFL. The Bengals are locking up guard Dalton Reisner to a one-year deal worth $5 million, and then some roster cuts. As the Chiefs, they're going to be releasing Jawan Taylor, and the Commanders are going to be moving off Marshawn Lattimore. That's Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet with you for the extra mile since 1935. I'm Zach Jones on Western New York's Voice of the Fan, WGR.
All right, into the 5 o'clock hour we do go here on WGR on a sunny, albeit still cold Monday, but that is about to change. We got some warmer weather rolling in later this week. I think I saw temperatures projected in the 70s by later in the week, which I'm sorry, I'm talking like a little kid now, but like that's very exciting news, I think, for us outdoorsy types that like to do the golfing and the whatnot. Sal Kapacio now on the West Her Hotline. Speaking of people who like to do the golfing and whatnot, Sal, normally, of course, it's a football conversation, and there was lots of news in the league today, and we will get to it, but I want to ask you for your input into something I've talked a lot about today, and that is just how much your sports viewing, your Sabres habit has changed, if at all. I mean, I know you and Max and your wife, you go to games all through this drought here, you know, when you've been here, but it's got to be different now with this team actually being good for the first time in your son's life.
Yeah, hi. Good to talk to you, buddy. Here's the biggest change for me. I am watching a lot more non-Sabres hockey, NHL, than I ever have. And, like, in many years, I used to. There's a time period I just didn't watch other NHL games that much. I mean, if it was on, might flip it on, might just want to watch some superstars, might want to watch McDavid, you know. Just from a kind of overall, just kind of fan standpoint, I am dialed in. I watched the third period of the Islanders-Panthers game yesterday, and I'm like, it was back and forth. And the Panthers tied it up late, and then the Islanders score late, and Schaefer has 2 goals, and, you know, they're going gaga over him because he's great, right? I mean, it's just like, it was, and I'm thinking, what's about, all right, just maybe Islanders 1 point here? Nah, they got 2, that sucks. So, you know, I mean, like, that's really what I'm doing a lot more. It has not changed anything about the way I feel about the Sabres. I've always been, as you know, just like you, grow up, you're a fan, and, you know, we love hockey here. The thing I think about the Sabres that's changed, though, this year right now, but this is more of a everyday, this ratchets it up, is get this damn thing home. Like, I am just getting nervous, not about where they can go. That'll happen. You got to get there first. If they were not to make it now, my fear is, like, just do not collapse. You cannot let this thing go awry now, right? Like, that's my fear at this point. And then it's, let's see how far they can go.
It would really, I said today, finally, I think I finally worked up the gumption to use the word, it'd be stunning to me if they didn't make it. Because I just, I don't think there's anything fluky about it, you know? Like, they're good. They don't give up a lot. They've got enough talent up front. You know, we'll see if they can add something to the mix here, more like role player wise than like top shelf talent, I think is what I'm thinking about. But to me, it would be stunning if they missed. They look like, Sal, literally for the last, 30 games, one of the very best teams in the league.
Yes, and obviously I think they have the best record since December 9th. You're right about that. Like, this is real, right? I'm finally convinced this is real. We've had winning streaks before throughout the drought, and you're like, 10 games in November several years ago, and, they're getting pucks going in off butts and things like that, and,
right.
Whatever, right? But this looks real. The other part about why they, you're right, they have to do this. You're at the point now where the teams behind them are going to sell. There's a couple threats maybe behind them that won't become threats anymore, you think, if they wind up selling parts, whoever that is. Maybe that's going to be Ottawa or Philadelphia, whatever. You
Florida,
eliminate
Toronto, yeah, right.
Correct. Right. You eliminate a couple teams out of the mix for Florida and Toronto, right? I mean, they got parts that people are like, okay, not that necessarily they'd even catch you, but you kind of put them off to the side and say, okay, there's really maybe only 3 or 4 teams that even could wind up getting you out of this. And then even then, the other teams around you would also have to, be continually winning, which everybody does. So I agree with you. I saw Sneaky Joe's tweet this morning, which I was amazed at. And he had the screenshot of one of the odds sites. The Sabres odds of winning the cup are actually better than not making the playoffs.
Right. I did see that from Joe this morning. Yeah. And for folks who are curious, don't look at the standings every day as part of their job like I do. Florida and Toronto are both 13 points behind the Sabres going into play tonight. Toronto plays in a couple of hours at home against Philly, and I think Florida is off. Speaking of watching out-of-town games, Sal, there was an afternoon game today, and it involved Detroit, one of the teams in the mix with the Sabres. They won 4-2 over Nashville, so they are now tied with the Sabres at 76 points. But
what else is new with an Eastern Conference team winning, right? I mean, it's just amazing. These teams just keep winning, and that's why it's so important for the Sabres to kind of keep their foot on the gas, so to speak. We knew that, but yeah, and it's funny. I heard you ask Paul, what changed. That's actually what the topic of the Extra Point Show was today. I literally, and here the background was we were watching the Lightning game, the Sabres Lightning, and Yana says to me, she goes, what changed? What happened here? How did this happen? Yeah. And I said, I don't know. That's a great point. We can point to the GM, but he didn't make any massive changes, right? The vibes of him, I think tangibly, and she said to me, is it Lindy? And I would say this, Bulldog, and I said this on the Extra Point Show today. I do remember last year at the end of the year, and there was a question if Lindy would come back. And Lindy said something to the effect of, I haven't solved this yet. This is a tough solve for me, and I haven't fixed it yet, and I want to fix it. And it just feels like to me, I just feel good that maybe he just finally fixed it. He found the keys to do it, and I want to give him a lot of credit for that.
Yeah, I like that. I have pointed at Adams' removal. I mean, it's obvious. It's maybe convenient. Maybe it's even too convenient. But I think, if you've ever worked in a place where you don't believe in your boss or don't believe in your the leadership, then I think, you still do your job. You still love your coworkers, right? You still want to do, a good job, but are you willing to go, right? Especially in something that is as highly competitive as playing pro hockey. I mean, you're talking about throwing yourself in front of 100-mile-an-hour slap shots. You're talking about busting it when your lungs are burning to get back and break up a play. I mean, those are just things you're not going to do if you don't believe in the overall. And I think that is the biggest reason Adams needed to be removed, because I think it allowed some light into the room and allowed guys to ponder, you know what, I have more to give, and I'm gonna do it, because you're right, the personnel has not changed really at all.
No,
go ahead.
I would say this though, that what's wild is and you're 100% right when you say that about the culture of leadership in a building, and you might also be looking for what's next for you. Right? Yeah, I don't love being here. I love the people I work with, like you said, but I don't love my job that much. I don't believe in leadership. What else is out there for me? And I just think we've gone through a lot of that. And you know what? Jarmo, the story is the minute he gets hired, the day he gets hired, he tells the team, hey, you're not performing to your abilities. There's more talent in here. You're getting outworked, and that's going to stop right now. Well, guess what? I'm sure a lot of coaches told Buffalo Sabres hockey players that over the last 14 years. But you know what they might have said? Well, I don't care. I'll go. Get me out of here. I just feel like that's not happening either, where it's
right.
No, I don't want you to do that to me.
Sal Kapacio on the West Here Hotline. Thank you for indulging me on the little sidebar with hockey. I mean, we know you're on the air with the Extra Point Show, so you talk hockey and follow hockey. But obviously, it is a busy time of the year here for football. We're a week away from the legal tampering period. And then, of course, free agency, middle of next week. And we're kind of off to the races. Like, what are the Bills doing right now? Do they put a board together of, like, a plan of attack and, like, what they want to do in some order? Like, well, if we want to do this, but if we can't do this, we want to do that. And if we can't do that, then we've got to circle back to this other thing that's in column B. Like, how complicated a time of the year is this for Brandon Beane and his staff?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be complicated, but there's no one right way to attack, and there's no one way to attack. There's no one plan. There's multiple plans that you can have, depending. Every year could change, and every day it could change, depending on what happens around the league, for sure. But this is why it's a great question, because maybe people don't understand. You have a pro personnel department, and you have a college personnel department, and they act separately. But Brandon Beane's kind of in charge of all of it. And, he can look in conjunction. And what he has to do this time of year is look at his pro personnel department and start attacking free agency with where the guys' market's here. Okay, guys are going to be free agents, are free agents. What is their market going to be? The job of a pro personnel scout, pro personnel department, is throughout the year, they're monitoring the rest of the league. Pending free agents, trades, anything that comes up, people around the league who they think, okay, at the end of the year, let's get a file on this guy, make sure we know, what's happening there. So that's the pro personnel department. Right now, free agency is happening, so they have to be very aware of that, and that's going to be top of mind, especially their own free agents. It's funny that we are in Indy and Brandon Beane talking about Dawson Knox, and he's like, yeah, we got 2 weeks, so, we don't have to do it right away. And, like, we're all thinking, oh, my God, they have to get all this done right away. They don't. Like, they have time, and they're going to work through that. They're going to get back from Indy. So then you have the college personnel department, and what are they doing? They're watching all the college games, going back a couple of years. They're tracking these guys. They're interviewing. They go to the combine. They do the testing. They do the interviews. That's their separate side. Now, everything's got to come together, and now Brandon Beane says, okay, where is the depth in the draft? We got some depth at linebacker. Maybe we don't need to attack that in free agency because there's some depth there that we can add there. Well, you know what? This draft isn't that good at linebacker, he says maybe. So let's go get maybe a couple guys in free agency because we don't believe in, what we might be able to get through the draft. And he's balancing that and he's weighing that. But right now, since the combine is over, they'll reconvene, and now it's full steam ahead with free agency, and then they'll start to circle back on the draft.
Yeah, it's got to be so hard because of the timing of everything, right? Like, you can't do it all at once. So you might have, right, like, let's see, a lot of people have mentioned Chanel, the linebacker from Kansas City that was with Jim Leonard at Wisconsin. Like, that's a free agent idea. I think if you were to land him, then that probably to some extent downgrades how important it is to get an impactful linebacker, say by, early on day 3 of the draft, for example. But if you don't get him, then, you got to maybe re-examine that. Same thing goes for receiver, right? If you make a big deal, like a whopper of an A.J. Brown trade, right? The desire, it's going to cost you an asset, probably, I don't know if it'll cost you a first, certainly would have to cost you, I think, at least a second if you were to swing that deal. Stop me if you disagree. That changes your needs in the draft then, because you've added a player of that caliber who's clearly your number one guy. And it's just like all the moving parts, I think, make it hard to have. You got to be ready to adapt on the fly all the time is really what it takes, I think, right?
Yeah, 100%. March 2nd, 2020, that's what I'm saying, exactly 6 years ago today, we are talking this very conversation about, okay, they got to attack. They need a wide receiver. You got to help this young quarterback, get a wide receiver. He needs a top guy. Literally 2 weeks later, March 16th, they trade for Stephon Diggs. Everything changes. Because, you're talking about drafting one for him, right? Now you're like, wait a minute, they just traded for one. They don't need to draft one. This is why people ask me all the time. I go to the combine, what do you think they're going to do in the first round? What do you think? And they're drafting so late. It's a little different than, if they're drafting early. Yeah. But I always say it this way. I have no idea. Tell me what they do in free agency, and I can answer that better. We're going to get a much better handle exactly 1 month from today when it's April 2nd, and we are 3 weeks into free agency on what the Bills might want to do in the draft, because everything is going to change. If they go out there and they sign 2 wide receivers. They trade for a wide receiver of a name, number 1, number 2. You're like, okay, wait a minute now. They don't need to do that. You could still get one in the draft. It's not as high as a priority.
Yep.
What didn't they do at free agency, though? Okay, now they didn't get a linebacker. Here's your Leo Chanel. What if they go out and here comes maybe your first-round pick. What if they do sign Leo Chanel? All right, they don't need a linebacker. Maybe it's a day 3 pick. That'd be great. Bring Red Murdoch aboard. That'd be awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think it is a moving target here. And it's also interesting that the NFL is one of the only sports that does it this way, Bulldog. They have free agency before the draft. Now, there's not a minor league like there is in hockey, but hockey has the draft and free agency, and they don't really matter to each other necessarily, obviously, in hockey. But basketball does it the other way. Basketball has the draft, then free agency. And I do think it impacts the way that teams operate in those sports compared to each other.
Sal Kapacio on the West Her Hotline here on WGR. A week from the tampering period, and then so that means, like 10 days or so from the opening of free agency. Sal, I've thought about this from every different angle. I'm sure you have too. Like this offseason, the number of holes that they have to fill, new defensive scheme, just how much does that impact what they do both in free agency and in the draft. And then the idea of making a big move for any position. That could be defensive end too, I guess, like Max Crosby as an idea, right? We tend to get focused on receiver in this room, but there are other needs and other things you could do to acquire them outside of free agency and the draft. I wonder about a big swing. Like a part of me feels like Bean is aware of some of the criticism, and I think maybe even might want to do something big to sort of like, look, I got this, we got this. But I wonder how smart that is in an offseason where they have the edge need and the linebacker need and the safety need, along with interior offensive line with the 2 free agents there. And then, of course, receiver. Like, there's a lot. Like, it might be a year where your best bet would be to stockpile as many assets as you can rather than trade 1 or 2 of them away to get a whale.
Not only is he aware of it, I mean, he still gets asked about it on national shows. The interview, right? The interview with Jeremy and Joe I'm talking about, like the talking point, and then what happened at the trade deadline and not acquiring one, and everything that's kind of gone down. Like it is still something. A year later, we're almost a year from when Brandon Beane came on WGR with Jeremy and Joe and the viral interview, right? We're almost a year from that, and he's asked about it a lot. The thing that's changed, though, is you have a different head coach. And the head coach now is the offensive head coach who's been here with this team, who's been in charge of, an offense that has put up big points, but has also kind of indicated, yeah, I'm the play caller. It's on me no matter what, but I've also had to run the offense in conjunction with what the game plan the head coach wanted to, have. And he's talked a little bit about adding a vertical element, and Brandon Beane has kind of acknowledged that a little bit. And I do wonder, again, let's go back to the press conference, Terry Pegula, Brandon Beane, all that stuff that happened, things that were said. I think what happened there is people have to understand. There's the headline, right, of Terry Pegula said what he said about Keon Coleman, and oh my God, they're blaming things on Sean McDermott, or they stepped in it here, stepped in it there. Okay, we can go to all that, but I think people need to understand they were, I think, trying to send the message out that, look, Brandon Beane he wasn't just working in a vacuum to pick players and give to Sean McDermott. It also wasn't just McDermott making the call on everything, but he's going to listen to his coaches. He's going to understand, what do you want? What do you need? How do you want to play football? And then I'll kind of go around and figure out pro personnel, college personnel, what to do there. I do think that part has changed. Like, I think that Joe Brady is telling Brandon Beane something different than Sean McDermott told him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's evident by those little things that we keep hearing about wide receiver, which is your point to that particular position. But also look what they're doing on defense. I mean, they have overhauled the entire coaching staff except for 2. Full new defensive coordinator, most likely a completely different type of scheme. We'll see where all of that goes. I just think there's a different kind of thought and feel. And I mean, the structure is even different, Bulldog. It's now a vertical structure where the head coach reports to the GM, where before it was the head coach and GM both report to the owner. And I just don't think any of these things are coincidental, right, when it comes to how they want to operate this offseason.
Do you have Sal Kapacio on the Western Hotline with us here on WGR? Do you have a favorite receiver plan of attack? Focus on the trade market or free agency because that's first, right? Obviously, if they don't get enough or even anything, which would really stun me, on the trade market or in free agency, then obviously it's all hands on deck to overhaul the receiver core in the draft. And maybe that ends up being the largest focus of the draft. But I don't think we'll get to that because we've got the trade market and free agency. Is there an idea that you've liked all along or you've really warmed up to, no matter how big or how small?
I mean, if you want super duper pie in the sky idea, I'd love them to do whatever they could to trade for Justin Jefferson. I mean, I know that is super duper pie in the sky, right? But it's an overall point of whether it's him or not. Now, look, I'm actually a little more lukewarm on A.J. Brown when it comes to this. I just think that he brings with him a certain kind of headache that happens that you just dealt with Stephon Diggs in some manner, right, in some capacity, that I don't think they have an appetite for, and I don't know if that's really going to work. But he's a fantastic player, right? I mean, let's see if they could do that. So just kind of leaving him aside because of that, my favorite idea, Bulldog, is to just swing for the biggest fish you can. That's what it is. Go get the best wide receiver you can. It could be someone we are not thinking about right now. There could be someone on a team where we wake up on March 16th of 2026 instead of March 16th of 2020 that night when being after dark that night on Stephon Diggs, and all of a sudden there's a tweet that says the Bills are trading for insert name here, and you're like, what? How did that happen? Why was he available? Like, that's my favorite idea. I just want them right now with this quarterback turning 30 years old and everything that they've gone through at that position for the last few years. There is no more time. Go get the guy. Like, just whoever it is, identify the best person available that you can get and go get him.
I've liked Brian Thomas Jr. in that way because while I think it probably costs you your first round pick, on the cap, it's still 2 years of a rookie contract there and a fifth-year option if I want it and need it, which I would, expect you to, take on. Now, it's not a perfect idea because we're not really sure. Even last year, his rookie year was like it really took Mac Jones to kind of unlock him. Doesn't seem like he's really gotten on with Trevor Lawrence. This year was kind of a lost year. So there's flies around that a little bit that might scare you off. But I feel like it might be just the sweet spot where it's an asset that, of course, is prized if I'm giving up a number one, but it doesn't cost me $25 or $30 million on my cap right away, which is certainly something you got to be thinking about if you're the Bills.
For sure, 100%. And I mean, I don't know exactly what his compensation would be. I have no fear of moving Keon Coleman in any package if they want. I just don't know if another team is going to want to do that either. Right? Is that something to help a team go, wait a minute, we're offsetting our rookie contract receiver. We're bringing in another rookie contract receiver who hasn't worked in Buffalo, but maybe he can work with us. Like, I have no fear of doing that if they want to do that. And I actually think that the Bills could very well still wind up doing something like that. I'm not convinced that he's certainly on the team in 2026 after Brandon Beane talked about maturity issues again at the Combine with him. And, sure, they're pumping him up and trying to be confident in him, but I think that's probably, to me, about a 50-50 proposition. And by the way, when I say go get the best person you can, maybe that is in free agency. Maybe you can't get somebody a trade because it's just the price would be super astronomical and nobody's willing to move a guy. I just don't know if there's anybody really like that. I guess you could say Alec Pierce. Is Alec Pierce really a true number one? To me, he's not. He's got a really nice skill set. I like him, and I'm fine with the Bills bringing him in. But I just don't know. Rashid Shaheed, Romeo Doubs, these are all nice names. They don't get me to the level of go get the best guy that you can possibly find available in some capacity.
Yeah, to some extent, it feels like, anything but a guy that has proven to be a number one or maybe at least close to a number one. I think the fan base is largely going to react like, great, you signed Curtis Samuel and Josh Palmer again.
Right.
And so, and there's not a lot of wiggle room between that level and the top level. Even Alec Pierce, I agree with you. That's an exciting idea and an exciting player, but I don't think that's that's to me on a really loaded team, a team with a number one. He is a great number two. I just don't know if I don't have the structure to make that really work, I don't think. So I'd be a little leery of that. We'll see if he even hits the market, right? There's been a lot of talk about them maybe divesting themselves of Pittman and keeping Pierce because of age and whatnot. So we'll see what comes of that. But, yeah, I mean, I love to hear you talking about going big, though. I'm a little surprised because of all the holes they have that you would consider like, Justin Jefferson. I know it's pie in the sky, but like you got to be willing to give up at least 2, if not 3 number ones maybe to pull that off. Like that would be a monster trade, right?
Yeah, it would be. Man, 3 number ones. Boy, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, maybe that's what it would take. I'm not really sure, but man, put him back with Joe Brady and give Josh Allen that guy. Part of it is though, and I agree with you, they have holes. I'm still not convinced exactly what holes they do or don't have until I know what the defense is going to look like, to be quite honest with you, right? Like that's part of it here, which I guess I'm putting a little bit of blind faith and trust in Jim Leonard is going to, I'm not going to say fix, but put together something that I feel confident in. You know what I mean? And they're going to find guys who fit what he, like I think maybe I'm putting a little too much, but I think I'm putting a little blind faith in that and saying, okay, so then go get me the guy that I know they absolutely need.
All right, Sal. Excellent job as always. Thanks again for the hockey diversion at the top of the conversation, and we'll catch up with you, I'm sure, later in the week.
You got it, buddy. Thanks.
That is our dude, Sal Kapacio, on the West Her Hotline. His appearances are always brought to you by New York's only outlet Liquor. When you need to stock up, it's the place to buy a case. What's your outlet? You want to go on anything Sal and I talked about, certainly more than welcome. You want to revisit the hockey conversation we've been having most of the day, how your consumption of the Sabres has changed. Maybe you're listening to this show more often. Thank you for being here. We love it when you're with us. But I'm talking more about your habits around watching the games, following the league, going out for games. It's just... We've been dormant as a fan base for so long that it feels so good to be able to, fly the flag, so to speak. And it's not like we're just limping along here. The Sabres are in second place in their division. They just smoked one of the very best teams in the league on Saturday in their own place. Like, there's nothing fluky going on here, folks. They're good. How good remains to be seen, but there's... You don't go through 31 games with a record of 24-5-2. If you're not good, they're doing a lot of things well that are generating that. So that's on the table too. 803-0550 is the phone number. If you'd like to hop on board, we'd love to have you. Mike is out today, should be back tomorrow. I am the Bulldog, and this is WGR.
Just practice today for the Buffalo Sabres. They do return, though, to home ice tomorrow night when they take on Las Vegas. Earlier today, though, we did get some injury updates from head coach Lindy Ruff, where concerns is Yuri Kulik, as he is getting tests tomorrow to see if he can rejoin the team or just increase his workouts as he continues to look to come back from suffering from blood clots from earlier this year. In the Sabres Injury Report, it is brought to you by Hamburg Overhead Door. Is your garage door injured? Call the experts at Hamburg Overhead Door to get your door healthy again. Staying with the NHL, the trade deadline is this week, Friday at 3 p.m. But before that deadline, we are starting to get some deals early as the Oilers are acquiring defenseman Connor Murphy from the Chicago Blackhawks for a 2028 second-round pick. Chicago also is retaining 50% of Murphy's salary. And staying with trades, the NFL also got busy today, especially for the Houston Texans. Houston started the morning by sending right tackle Titus Howard to Cleveland for a fifth-rounder. Howard then signed a 3-year, $63 million extension with the Browns. And then following that, Houston then acquired running back David Montgomery from Detroit for a fourth, a seventh, and center Justin Scruggs. It's Paddock Chevrolet Sports Headlines. Paddock Chevrolet with you for the extra mile since 1935. I'm Zach Jones on Western New York's Voice of the Fan, WGR.
One thing that has changed for a lot of hockey fans, like Sal was saying last segment, he's among this group. I am not, because I pretty much every night during the season watch a hockey game when I get home from work. Just is force of habit. My wife works a lot of nights. I'm home alone a lot. Grown children, the whole deal. So that's just what I do. But fans now that have not been doing that are probably doing that. And for you specifically, I want to make sure you're aware that the Detroit Red Wings already won a hockey game today. There was an afternoon game today. Red Wings at Predators. I don't know. Detroit won 4-2, laid empty netter to seal it. So they are now tied at 76 points with the Sabres. They have played one more game than Buffalo, so Buffalo still holding down second place in the division. But just to fill you in, because you care now, right? These teams around the Sabres in the standings, it matters. 803-0550 is the phone number. You want to get involved in the show, we would love to have you, like Paul has done. Paul, you're first up this segment. Thanks for calling. You're on WGR.
Bulldog, thank you for having me. I've just come to the conclusion the Montreal Canadiens and the Detroit Red Wings aren't going to lose again in the regular season, so neither can we. Every time I watch them play, they win, and they look fantastic doing it.
Yep.
I got to absolutely agree with you. Saturday, I watched 3 hockey games. It was a great day of hockey on ABC. The Rangers actually came through for us and got a point from the Penguins. That was nice to see. And then we just see Tanner Jeannot and Nick Delorier. What a fight. Oh, my goodness. And you don't often see Nick Delorier lose a fight. But Jeannot did get the better of him after Delorier started fast. But, man, those were just some heavyweight punches thrown. I got to give it up for both of those guys. And then, of course, we took care of business against the Florida Panthers. And what I would say has changed for this team, the reason it's real, we've got 2 incredible breakout seasons from Peyton Krebs and Matthias Samuelsson. We've got good goaltending from whomever is in the net. Mm-hmm. Our coach is on point. And I want to point out in the game against Florida, at the end of the second period with 2 minutes left, we got a power play, and Lindy called timeout. He didn't save it for what might be at the end of the game. He took it there because it was the end of a period and it was a chance to get a goal that would change momentum. We didn't get the result, but it was absolutely the right move to take the time out there. And that tells me my coach is on point. Everything about the team right now is on point. And I still point to the firing of Adams because just the lift it gave everyone. Everyone has the edge now. We saw in the game against Tampa, Dahlin doing what he always does, throwing some cross checks to people, Braden Point this time, who then two-hands Dahlin on his skate boot. Dahlin goes down, and who comes in? Noah Ostlund, of all people, to have a little fight. And, respect to Braden Point, who could have hurt that young man and he chose not to.
That's right.
So it's just everything's firing. They look like a team. They're there for each other. A couple really important players are having breakout seasons. My coach is on fire like he hasn't been in a long, long time. Everything's coming up Millhouse, as they would say in The Simpsons.
All right, Paul. Appreciate the call very much. Yeah, I'm really curious to see what ends up happening with Benson now back. Because that, to me, that's the spot Krebs is in right now is Benson's spot. And look, I mean, they had a great night on Saturday. It was a I don't say it was easy. I mean, going in there, I mean, they had to work for it, but I mean, it was not a tense game for us. And so, not that worried about where Benson is. And Krebs has had so many good moments, especially recently, playing on that line that, I think it probably will take that line taking a nap or them losing a game before it'll change. But I think sooner rather than later, you're going to see Benson back up there. I think it's just too good when he's there with Tuck and Thompson. But Krebs has had a really nice year and can sort of fit in different spots, which gives you a lot of value. Samuelson, I'm glad you brought him up. I think it came up when we were talking with Joe Yurtton earlier. Just the turnaround he's had and what his season has been and how the fan base feels about him is such a lesson in not overreacting to one situation. We were so sour, so mad, rightly so, last year with that Devils situation when Thompson got rocked, and Samuelson carried all the blame for that, for being on the ice and not recognizing the situation. He is such a key part of this. And his personality, I read a great piece, Matthew Fairburn with The Athletic. I like his work a lot. A lot of people that cover the Sabres. I try to read them all and support them all. Of course, our Paul Hamilton being a part of that too, obviously. The piece Matt did on Samuelson and his importance in the room, sort of as an icebreaker, as someone to keep everyone loose. I think it's really hard when you're feeling the brunt of the fan base like he would have been, to be that personality and have it be what the team needs you to be. And I think he's really found that spot now. His play undeniably has been fantastic. I mean, again, just like the team, there ain't nothing fluky about it. He is producing offense. He is eliminating danger, chances. I mean, he just takes people out of plays in a way that he simply was not doing prior to this season. I don't know, maybe it was happening late last year, and I heard Lindy recently say he thought he was their best D-man towards the end of last year for like a chunk of maybe 30 games. And I would cop to being guilty of maybe not noticing because everything was just the worst at the time. But either way, such a huge part of what they're doing here this year. Ed is next up. Hi, Ed. Thanks for calling. You're on the air here on WGR.
How you doing, Bulldog? Good to talk to you.
Nice to talk to you.
I felt like at the beginning of the show today when you started, it felt like you had that epiphany that we've all kind of been having, but we're nervous to say it out loud. But to hear you say that the Sabres are good, this is like, I felt like streamers and balloons and like a marching band should have come out, like, because this has been obviously years in the making. And so I'm just going to share with you, like, as a nerdy GR listener, I have gone through years of like some of my favorite parts of the show, and I'm a very lukewarm hockey fan prior, just because of the state of the Sabres. And the fun for me would be to tune in at night and watch a bit, and I would say, these guys can't even pass good. And then I would listen to you guys and to hear your rants, and I'd be like, I would feel your passion and your frustration. And I'm like, I want to watch the Sabres. I can't wait till they're good. I hope they're good someday. And now it's just, sort of come full circle. And now we're all like, well, they're pretty good. They're pretty good. So I just want to give you your props. I know you think that the rants for the team, I heard you say not your best moment, but I'll politely disagree with you. I think that, those things got people like me to watch, and you got me to know what dudes to watch and who's to
right.
not. So I appreciate it, and it's fun. It's fun.
It's nice. It's nice of you to say, Ed. Thank you. I appreciate all that. I was not trying to say. I'll just clarify quickly and then take a break. I don't regret the rants. I'm not embarrassed by them. What my point was is that really it became impossible to sell them as genuine. Like I want it to always be real. And the Sabres had beaten me down to such a point that even when fans would be like, man, I can't wait to hear Bulldog rip them today, be like, guys, I'm dead inside. I'm sorry. I could, manufacture it for you. But that's not ever how I wanted to do this. So it's good. You know what ends up happening now is they're good. Expectations will be raised, and then we can get mad again when it doesn't go well. And it'll be real. It'll be honest. It'll be like, how did you let that happen? And that's how sports should be. You shouldn't be so beleaguered rooting for your favorite team that you don't even care when they're terrible anymore. It's like the worst relationship you could possibly have with a sports team that you care about. And that's where we had been living. And so, I don't know, I'm not telling you rants will be back, but like once they have you caring again, that's how it happens. You need that piece. When you don't care, like you're just yelling into the void. And I've never wanted to be that. So fortunately, I've been lucky enough not to. So I don't know. In a weird way, on a day where we're celebrating the Sabres being good again, it's all back, and that means like anger when it doesn't go well. But that's how it should be, right? That's normal. This being dead inside, not normal, bad, real bad. Right? Being dialed in and caring enough to get really genuinely upset about a result, that's where you want to be living. Thank you for the call, Ed. Really appreciate all the kind words. 803-0550 is the number. I'm the Bulldog. Mike has the day off today. This is WGR. Still a little chilly today, but spring is right around the corner, and we bet Rolling along here on a Monday. Thanks for tuning in. Mike has had the day off today. I am the Bulldog. We do anticipate Mike being back tomorrow. Zach Jones and our video producer, G, riding shotgun as well. 803-0550 is the number. A lot of hockey today, and we'll keep that going here. David is first up this segment. Hi, David. Thanks for calling. You're on the air here on WGR.
Hey, Chris. Doing an awesome job, man. Love it.
Thanks.
There's one thing I wanted to bring up, but I wanted to call on earlier with regards to a couple things that you talked about when you were on with Joe in that segment.
Okay.
I have been a Sabres fan, even in the dumpster fire, and I'll stay that way. I think and I'm going to go through these bullet points really quick with you. I think it's rather interesting that we're talking about a defenseman or somebody in the bottom six instead of the top six. I want to say that Samuelson is somebody I noticed last year, even before, he took a shot, didn't make it, whatever. This year, he takes a shot, and we've all been there. You miss, and he's heads up to the ceiling and groaning, which is a good sign. Because in his mind...
I like it, right.
Yeah, in his mind, he's like, I should have made that.
Mm-hmm.
So those are a few points that I wanted to make, and there was one more. I forget what it was. I know you're running out of time here, so.
All right, buddy. Well, it's fine. Appreciate the call. If you think of it, we'll hopefully be doing a lot more of this, having a lot more of these conversations here with the Sabres being back in the center of everything. Tomorrow should be a blast. We'll talk, I'm sure, a lot about it tomorrow. But if you missed it, I meant to get to it with Paul. Tage Thompson did speak today and said he fully intends on involving Jack Eichel and Noah Hannafin, for that matter. Was a spare part for Team USA, but still was there, won gold. So expect Eichel to be involved to some extent. At least, he's going to be introduced. I don't know if Thompson, I don't think he made it known if he's going to do what Jack Hughes did, go to the extent that Hughes went, where he went and got Thompson off the bench. I don't think that was a part of the scripted New Jersey celebration, but he did it. Either way, I predict, and I'll have plenty of time to talk about this, like I said, tomorrow, that Eichel gets a warm reception in a pregame ceremony tomorrow honoring Tage Thompson and the rest of the gold medal winning U.S. Olympic men. I think once the game starts, all bets are off. But to me, there's no way that the animosity that Eichel left here with and even came back to visit that first time with will get in the way of fans cheering Tage Thompson and these other guys that happen to be on the Las Vegas Golden Knights. I think anyway. I'm not telling you no one will boo, but I highly doubt that the story after the game will be, boy, can you believe how rude the reception was for Team USA? I don't see it. I think it'll be a great night, and hopefully the team is buttoned up and has themselves ready to go for a good night. Much more on the Sabres ahead. Paul Hamilton after this on WGR.